Home. It's a very subjective term. What do we need to call a place home? For some, it's a safe structure with walls and a roof. To others, it isn't a physical space. It's a place of refuge, comfort, love. Lance Tejada found that home at Lehigh University.
Like your typical child growing up in New York, it was rough, especially back in the day. You see a lot of things that, the normal kid probably, won't see. I moved a lot when I was a kid. I don't really remember too many places I stayed. That's how much I moved. I was taking transit, the train, the bus since 3rd grade. So I had to kind of grow up fast. I had to adapt to my environment, real young.
Lance was named after his father. For the first decade of Lance's life, it was his father who primarily supported and cared for him, always doing what was best for his son.
For a long time, my parents really didn't get along. And it was just not really stable, my house, my living situations. And if I could remember one stable situation, it was my grandparents. They really helped out and kept me grounded.
Lance's grandparents played a major role during his childhood in New York. His grandfather, Jose, was his first basketball coach. He challenged Lance to play with the older kids, which made him very competitive in the sport. A few years later, at age 12, Lance and his father joined his grandparents in Florida to live with them.
Living with them, you always gonna have food in the house, juice in the house, snacks. My grandmom, probably one of the most loving, caring individuals. My grandfather, kind of stubborn, kind of like me in a sense. He was kind of like, a reflection of me, and that's why I think me and him we were so close.
Lance eventually went from a 3-sport athlete to honing his craft in basketball. The hard work began to pay off when Division I programs like East Carolina University and Lehigh showed interest.
I visited ECU. That was my first visit. And I was gonna visit Lehigh the week after. Me and Coach Tone, was Coach Weiss, me and him have a great, relationship since high school. He even told me before the visit, don't fall in love and commit on us and not give us a try. He gave me that whole rundown.
Lance never made the initial trip to Bethlehem. He committed on his visit to ECU. Lance immediately contributed as a freshman for the Pirates, playing in 33 games. On the surface, he was happily living out his Division I basketball dreams. However, his internal struggle outweighed any of that enjoyment.
The first time I knew that I had a form of depression was at East Carolina. I think during my second year, first and second, but mainly my second year there, I just realized I wasn't happy, but it wasn't just your normal not happy. My mind told me certain things about myself, and it was hard to control to the point where I would lash out. I would go in my room and just throw things around, and this is kind of like, I've never told nobody this. I would go in my room and just want the world to end. And I knew I was really depressed when my mom came to one of my games, and I played well. I had like 14 points in like 15 minutes or something like that, and we had dinner at Red Lobster, I remember vividly. And we sat down and she asked me, her only question was, how are you? And I just broke down and started crying. I had, what I was chasing, but it didn't fill that void that I was feeling. I still didn't really feel much. I felt like a failure because for most of my life, my identity was basketball. That's been who Lance Tejada was. He was this basketball player. And that's kind of just how I was raised, and that's kind of how my mind was shaped. And I didn't really know who I was as a person. I didn't feel like I was worth anything. I wanted to go somewhere where I was wanted. I wanted to go somewhere where I felt cherished, and I felt, I felt like I belonged there, and I felt like I had support. I wanted to go somewhere where they were interested to know who LT was and my development off, and on the court.
Lance and I had some really candid conversations over the phone. And what really impressed me was his openness, where he talked about everything. And it was full disclosure. He showed great self-awareness, understanding the areas where he could perhaps improve and would engage differently in the process, and also circumstances that he had dealt with throughout the course of his life that got him to that moment. What I really sensed was he needed a home. He needed a place where people cared about him. He needed an opportunity, perhaps with a fresh start. And we also had the understanding that it wasn't going to be the easiest thing, but I believed in him.
Lance's transition to Lehigh was far from easy. Due to NCAA transfer rules, he couldn't compete on the court his first year. Then, 3 months into the adjustment of a new school and new team, Lance experienced uncharted pain.
I lost my grandfather 2 years ago, and that's kind of when I hit rock bottom again, when I realized that I really had to talk to somebody because I was losing it. Losing him, it opened my eyes up too. It made me realize that how short life really is and to cherish the people you really love. And that's what made me start expressing myself more because I never really told people how much they meant to me.
The pain caused by his grandfather's death ultimately gave Lance the ability to forgive and, most importantly, to heal.
For a lot of years, I had a lot of resentment towards my mom. I felt betrayed in a way, but that was just, you know, the immature young me not really understanding what was going on. She did the best she could. She chased, you know, her dreams and her aspirations, and now we're really close. You know, that's like my best friend. You know, I talk to her about, you know, about everything. A mom's love is, it's nothing, you know, like it. That really allowed me to heal. Just being able to speak about my problems, that's something I kind of had a hard time doing for a long time. You know, that's just kind of based off how I was raised. You know, we didn't really deal with our problems by expressing them verbally. We just kind of lived with them. And that kind of caused other problems, you know, holding stuff in, and it caused other mental health problems. My message is that it's help out there. You know, you're not the only one going through it. I mean, you'd be surprised that the person that's next to you that seems the happiest, they go through things, and don't be afraid to, you know, express that, because it does feel better. It's actually healing, and understand that somebody understands you, whether it's not one person, somebody understands you in this world, and just to know that your life is precious. And if you don't feel comfortable talking with somebody, you know, close to you, you know, there's professional help, you know, which I'm kind of in the process of finding, and, you know, the right person, because, you know, I feel like everybody needs a friend, even if you feel like you're super alone.
LT this year, LT today is a completely different LT when he first stepped on campus. I guess you want to applaud him just for the transition that he has made, just working on himself every single day, and just understanding really that this is a journey. You know, coming to college forces people obviously to grow up, and I think he's been doing a good job of that.
For him to talk openly and candidly about the things that are going on in his life, the challenges he has, you know, that's a vulnerability. And when that vulnerability is exposed, that shows a tremendous amount of courage. But it is also a great reminder for anybody who's watching that deals with issues or has down days that, you know what, there is hope. There is a great opportunity for the next day, the opportunity to, you know, reframe your perspective, to learn a little bit about yourself and go through those challenges and grow. I think that's a huge success story.
Lehigh is the first place I could say I felt like, as from a collective, you know, community, wanted. I have fans that tweet me and just tell me how much I mean to them. It's been more of a family here, especially like with my coaches and how much they were there for me during those tough times, and how much they allowed me to grow in those situations and not look down at me when I told them certain things I was going through, and not belittle the situation. Or they kind of worked as much as they could through them with me, and they were there for me, like, kind of as father figures and older brother figures, I can say, in a sense. So Lehigh has been a perfect fit because I kind of put me in an unknown zone. And I feel like when you're most uncomfortable, that's the beautiful moments of your life.
Home has become a place where Lance can openly express himself. It's now a place where he's surrounded by people who genuinely care about him. That home is Lehigh University.